श्री गुरु गौरांग गंधार्विक गिरिधारी श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जाय। श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जू की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत शिष्यमार भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत शिष्यमार भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत शिष्यमार भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत शिष्यमार भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत शिष्यमार भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्याल प्रविष्ट महाभगवत शिल गौरक्षरस बाबाजी महाराज की जय। नित्याल प्रविष्ट शिल सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्याल प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम शिल जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूपानु गौरिया गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ शार गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नाम जय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौरमंडल ब्रजमंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदाता गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। जय श्री भक्ति तत्व विवेक की जय। जय श्री सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। Right, we will begin the Mangalacharan. Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Shri Siddhanta Saraswati Tividito Kodi Agurvan Baye Bhato Bhanuriva Prabhata Gagane Yogora Sankirtanai Maya Varati Mingilo Daragatan Udhritya Jivan Niman Krishna Prema Sudabdikahana Sukhang Pradat Prabhung Tang Bhaje Vande Bhakti-vinodam Shri Gaura-shakti Swarupakam Bhakti Shastragya Samrajam Radharasa Sudhanidhim Namo Bhakti-vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura-shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vrishabhanusutanvitavamatanu Yamuna Tatanagaranandasutam Murali Kalagita Vinoraparam Bhaja Godrumakanana Kunjavidum Smaragoragadadarake Bhava Gaura Gadadhara Paksha Chara Shrinu Gaura Gadadhara Charukhatam Bhaja Godruma Kanana Kunja Vidum Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Devi Tvang Nayamang Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshai क्षिप्ताष्टकामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् भज श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्णा Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Dandavat Pranams, dear devotees, Nri Hari Prabhu Bhavatarani Mataji and Gokuleshwari Didi. And on YouTube, I see there are 9 people. Um, I can only see the names of people who write comments though. So I see there's Raseshwari Mataji, Prajumna Prabhu, Mantramurti Mataji, Rukmini Didi, Rohini Nandan Prabhu, Vidyalalasa Didi, and all the other devotees. I'm guessing Indira Mataji is there. And yeah, so many other devotees, also devotees watching in the future. Dandavat pranams. So we are continuing with our reading of Shri Bhakti-tattva-viveka by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We are in the first chapter. He's explaining just the general meaning of what is bhakti and the intrinsic and extrinsic characteristics. Extrinsic isn't the right word for tatasta. Marginal. Yeah, I actually once looked up Swarup Lakshan and Tatastha Lakshan on the internet, and I got a very different kind of definition. It was interesting. Um, anyhow, so we are I'm not very good at doing summaries, but what I did this time is I just highlighted different parts from what we read in the chapter, and so I'll just read the highlighted parts, and that will give us kind of an overview of what we read in the previous couple sessions. All right. Actually, just regarding Swarup Lakshan and Tatastha Lakshan, one second. Let me just uh you want to just I'm gonna just this is just an experiment. We're just asking ChatGPT what um what is the meaning of Swarup Lakshan? I don't need to be typing in diacritics. And Tatastha Lakshan in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. I mean, this isn't ChatGPT isn't always spot on or anything, but sometimes it's helpful. Let's see. In Gaudiya Vaishnavism, because this in this chapter, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is mainly going over this verse by Srila Rupa Goswami, Anyabhilashita Shunyam. And the first 2 lines is the Tatastha Lakshan, and the last 2 lines is the Swarup Lakshan. And so Swarup Lakshan, the intrinsic definition. This refers to the essential, inherent characteristics that define the nature of an entity. It describes what something is in its very essence, without reference to external factors. Yeah, that's a good. Example, the Sarup Lakshan of Bhakti. Oh wow, that's so interesting. It gives that is Anukulena Krishnanushilanam, as defined in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. That's so neat that it gave the this verse as an example. And then the Tatastha Lakshan, the marginal definition. This refers to characteristics that help define an entity by distinguishing it from others, often in relation to external circumstances. It does not express the inherent nature, but rather an incidental or distinguishing feature. Example, the Tatastha Lakshana of Bhakti includes characteristics such as producing detachment from worldly things and destroying material distress. That's, um, oh, I guess that's the verse 12, the next verse. Interesting. These two categories are often used in philosophical discourse to ensure clarity when defining key concepts like Bhakti, the Jiva, or Bhagavan. For instance, in defining Bhagavan, his Sarup Lakshan is his inherent qualities, like being Satchidananda, while his Tatastha Lakshan includes his activities, such as being the creator of the universe. Okay, I don't know, but yeah, but these first two things is really good. Um, the Swarup Lakshan describes what something is in its very essence without reference to external factors. It refers to the essential inherent characteristics that define the nature of an entity. And then the Tatastha Lakshan refers to characteristics that help define an entity by distinguishing it from others, often in relation to external circumstances. It does not express the inherent nature, but rather an incidental or distinguishing feature. Okay, so um, so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, our foremost duty is to understand the true nature of Shuddha Bhakti. This understanding will benefit us in two ways. First, knowing the nature of pure devotion will dispel our ignorance concerning the topic of bhakti and thus make our human lives successful by allowing us to relish the nectar derived from engaging in bhakti in its pure form. So that's the first reason why we must understand what is the true nature of Shuddha Bhakti, so that we can relish the nectar derived from engaging in bhakti and understand it. Secondly, it will enable us to protect ourselves from the polluted and mixed conceptions that currently exist in the name of pure devotion, which is most most of the time when people are talking about bhakti in the world, it is referring to karma mishra bhakti, bhakti mixed with karma, mixed with gyan, mixed with yoga, and um, all different kinds of things, which is not pure bhakti. Very rare to find pure bhakti. So that's why we really have to become clear on this topic. What is bhakti? Some people say that there's no value in bhakti, that God is an imaginary sentiment only, that man has merely created the image of God in his imagination, and that bhakti is just a diseased state of consciousness that cannot benefit us in any way. These types of people, though opposed to bhakti, oh, this point is really good. So these types of people, though opposed to bhakti, cannot do much harm to us because we can easily recognize them and avoid them. But those who but those who propagate that devotion unto the Supreme Lord is the highest path, yet behave against the principles of Shuddha Bhakti and also instruct others against the principles of Shuddha Bhakti, can be especially harmful to us. So that's we have to be more cautious of those who seem like our family members and those engaging in bhakti and everything, but are actually, um, they have more uh, chance of misleading us. And those who wear tilak and kantimala and devotional clothes, yet actually are not preaching pure bhakti. Those are the ones who we have to be extra careful of. So, Srila Rupa Goswami, he's written the ultimate definition of the most complete, perfect definition of bhakti. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, well, okay, we can recite the verse. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam anukulena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama. So, um, and we all know the meaning of this verse. Bhakti is the cultivation of activities of the body, mind, and words through our actions and through our moods, um, which is meant for the benefit of Krishna, only wanting Krishna's welfare, wanting only what is anukul for Krishna. It's a constant cultivation of these, of the bhav and cheshta, right? And cheshta is divided into two, pravritti and nivritti, active engagements and active disengagements, and through one's moods, sentiments of love for Krishna. So, um, and then it is, and so that's that is a surup lakshan. That is the defining characteristic of, like, the intrinsic characteristic of bhakti. And then the the tatastha lakshan of bhakti is that it is anyabhilashita shunyam. And I think we actually, yesterday, in our last reading, we only got up to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, half of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's explanation of anyabhilashita shunyam. And so today we'll be going through the second half. Um, and yeah. All right. So in this verse, why does it say uttama bhakti? Isn't Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, what is the meaning of the words uttama bhakti? Perhaps by merely using the word bhakti alone, this meaning is indicated, since the word bhakti already contains within it all of these adjectives, um, all these adjectives anyway. Then so has Srila Rupa Goswami, the Acharya of the profound science of Bhakti Ras, employed the qualifying adjective uttama for no reason? No. Just as when desiring to drink water, people generally ask, is this water uncontaminated? Similarly, in order to describe the attributes of Uttama Bhakti, our preceptors considered it necessary to indicate that people mostly practice Mishra Bhakti, mixed devotion. So this, in reality, Srila Rupa Goswami is aiming to describe the attributes of Kevala Bhakti, or exclusive devotion. Chala Bhakti, pretentious devotion; Pratibimba Bhakti, a reflection devotion; Chaya Bhakti, a shadow devotion; Karma Mishra, Jnana Mishra, and so on. These are not Shuddha Bhakti. So what are the intrinsic, so that's why it's Uttama Bhakti. Haribol Sarveshwari Mataji. Now, what are the intrinsic attributes? What are the Sarupa Lakshan of Bhakti? To answer this question, it is said that Bhakti is Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam. Bhakti is the cultivation of activities that are meant exclusively for the pleasure of Sri Krishna. And in his Durgama Sangamani commentary of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Jiva Goswami explains that the word Anushilanam has two meanings. First, it means cultivation through the endeavors to engage and disengage in one's body, mind, and words. That's what I was mentioning. So the cultivation through endeavors. Endeavors, the word for that is cheshta. To engage, that means pravritti, and disengage, nivritti, one's body, mind, and words. Secondly, it means the cultivation towards the object of our affection, of our priti, through manasi bhav, through the sentiments of the heart and mind. So, cheshta and bhav. Although anushilana is of two types, the cultivation through manasi bhav, through the sentiments of the heart and mind, is included within the cultivation by cheshta, one's activities. So anything that we do in bhakti, any of our endeavors, if it is not filled with the sentiments of the heart and mind for Krishna, if we're just doing it externally or for any other purpose, then then those are not real activities in bhakti. So they both have to be aligned. Our endeavors and our sentiments. Also, if we just have our sentiments, just our feelings, but there's no endeavor, then that's also not bhakti. So both are necessary. Hence, one's activities or endeavors, one's cheshta, and one's internal sentiments, one's bhav, are mutually interdependent. And in the end, it is the cheshta, it is the endeavors that are concluded to be the sole characteristic of cultivation. Yes, bhakti is an active thing. And he goes in Guru Puran, it says that the verbal root bhaj, which bhakti comes from, means to render service. Therefore, thoughtful sadhaks should engage in the service of Krishna with great endeavor, for it is only by such service that bhakti is born. So, such service is the intrinsic attribute of bhakti. And now, in this verse, so now Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained Anukulena and Anushilanam. Now he's explaining why does it say Krishna Anushilanam? So in the main verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, this Anyabilash Tashanyam, the word Krishna Anushilanam has been used. The purport of this is that Swayam Bhagavan Shri Krishna is the sole ultimate objective indicated by the term Kevala Bhakti, exclusive devotion. The word bhakti is also used for Narayan and various other expansions of Krishna, but the complete sentiments of bhakti that can be reciprocated with Krishna cannot be reciprocated with other forms. So, although the supreme absolute truth, although the Paratattva is one, it is manifested in three forms. That is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Those who try to perceive the absolute truth through the cultivation of knowledge, of Gyan, cannot realize anything beyond Brahman. So through the cultivation of Gyan, one realizes Brahman, which is just the undifferentiated, um, the effulgence of the Lord. And yeah. And then, but it's not really, it doesn't really show the positive aspect of the Lord. Just what the Lord is completely free from Maya, and it's just a brilliant effulgence. This is just a light. And then the cultivation, and so then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that in depth. Um, and then through the practice of yoga, um, those who pursue the path of yoga in the end arrive only at realization of the all-pervading supersoul, Paramatma. They cannot attain realization of the Supreme Lord in its ultimate manifestation. Paramatma, Ishwar, personal Vishnu, and so on are the objects of research in the yoga process. In this process, we can find a few attributes of bhakti, but it is not unalloyed devotion. And the word Paramatma, we read the other day, Sundar Gopal, and actually Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also explained it here, but Sundar Gopal, I read a little thing that he wrote from Srila Jiva Goswami, says that there are three Paramatmas, or three Paramatmas, three supersouls. There's the supersoul of all of creation, that's Karna Daksha Vishnu. There is the supersoul of the universes, that's, of each universe, that's Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And there is the supersoul for all the jivas and also every atom, and that is Kshiradakshai Vishnu. So is what were there are three words, there's like the metacosmic, macrocosmic, and microcosmic. Anyways, all right. But that's all the Lord in relation to this world. That's the end of yoga. The absolute truth realized exclusively through the process of bhakti is called Bhagavan. So through Gyan is Brahman, through yoga is Paramatma, and through bhakti, the realization is Bhagavan. Haribo Chatamai Mataji. Jivas manifesting from the marginal potency, the Tatastha Shakti of Bhagavan, becomes successful only by following the path of engaging exclusively in his loving transcendental service. Then, by the practice of chanting the holy name through Nam Bhajan, one can realize through one's transcendental eyes the unparalleled beauty of Bhagavan. The process of Gyan and Yoga are incapable of approaching Bhagavan. When approached through the cultivation of impersonal knowledge, the Lord appears as the formless and effulgent impersonal Brahman. And if he is seen through the yoga process, he appears as Paramatma, invested within this material creation. Bhakti is supremely pure. I like this is a really strong point. Bhakti is supremely pure, and it is very painful for Bhakti Devi, the personification of Bhakti, to see the Supreme Personality in his lesser manifestations. If she sees this anywhere, she cannot tolerate it. Bhakti Devi cannot tolerate it. Out of the three manifestations of the Absolute Truth, it is only the manifestation of Bhagavan's personal form that is the object of bhakti. But even within Bhagavan's personal manifestation, there is one important distinction. Where the internal potency, where the Surup Shakti displays its complete opulence, its Aishwarya, there Bhagavan appears as Vaikuntanath Narayan. And where the internal potency displays its supreme sweetness, its Madhurya, there Bhagavan appears as Sri Krishna. Despite being predominant almost everywhere, Aishwarya loses its charm in the presence of Madhurya. Oh, my dear devotees, all of you just deliberate upon Aishwarya one time, and then afterwards lovingly bring sentiments of Madhurya into your hearts. By doing so, you will be able to understand this truth. But yeah, an important point is that we cannot appreciate the Madhurya of Bhagavan without understanding his Aishwarya. Because if we just go to Bhagavan's Madhurya without a firm foundation of an understanding of his Aishwarya, then we'll take the Madhurya to be cheap and material. But when you understand Bhagavan's Aishwarya and wow, and then on top of that, but this amazing Bhagavan, the source of all the universes, we understand about Vaikuntha Pati and Lord Narayan and all that. And then, but that amazing, magnificent Supreme Lord is just a sweet cowherd boy. Then all of a sudden, the Madhurya is so much more powerful and amazing and like that. Then you can actually appreciate the Madhurya. But you can't appreciate the Madhurya without first deliberating upon the Aishwarya. So it's very necessary to first, but then after we've had an understanding, then we just bring the Madhurya into our hearts, and then the Aishwarya is not as attractive anymore. Now, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Rupa Goswami has written in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu this verse, Siddhantatas Tabedepi. It means, although from the existential viewpoint, Narayan and Krishna are non-different, Krishna is superior due to possessing more ras. Such is the glory of ras tattva. So, yes, according to tattva, there is no difference between Narayan and Krishna, but according to ras, Krishna is superior. To remain devoid of desires separate from the desire. Okay, so that was all an explanation of the Swarup Lakshana of Bhakti. Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam. Now Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to begin explaining the Tatastha Lakshana of Bhakti. First he explains now he's explaining the first line of this verse, Anyabhilashita Shunyam. Haribo Ashray Tattva Prabhu. Right. To remain devoid of desires separate from the desire to please Sri Krishna, Anyabhilashita, and free from the coverings of Gyan and Karma, Jnana Karma Dhanavartam, are the marginal characteristics, the Tatastha Lakshan of Bhakti. Through my practice of sadhan bhakti, I will one day attain the elevated stage of bhav. Apart from this desire, all other types of desire are fit to be rejected. Okay, so this is the only desire that we should have. Through my practice of sadhan bhakti, I will one day attain the elevated stage of bhav bhakti. Then anything other than that is called anya bilashita. Anya bilashita, yeah. Anya abilash. That means other desire. Anything other than that desire to want to attain the stage of bhav. There are two types of separate desire. There's the desire for sense gratification, for bhukti, and the desire for liberation, mukti, or also freedom from suffering. That's desire for mukti, right? I don't want to suffer anymore. I want to be liberated. So now, regarding bhukti and mukti, sense gratification and liberation, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.22, Bhukti mukti spirhayavat pishachi hridi vartate tavar bhakti sukhasyatra katham abhyudayo bhavet. It means as long as the two witches of the desires for bhukti and mukti remain in a devotee's heart, not even a fraction of the pure happiness derived from Sarup Siddha Bhakti will arise. Both bodily and mental enjoyment are considered bhukti. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur goes into great detail on what does bhukti mean? What is this bodily enjoyment, this mental enjoyment? To make an extraneous effort to remain free from disease or to desire palatable foodstuffs, strength and power, wealth, followers, wife, children, fame, victory. These are all considered bhukti. Desire to take one's next birth in a Brahmin family or in a royal family, to attain residence in the heavenly planets or Brahmaloka in one's next life. Even practice of the eightfold yoga system to desire different mystic perfections. So many different, so many things fall under this category of material enjoyment. But then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, to abandon the desires for bhukti, a conditioned soul need not reject the objects of the senses by going to reside in the forest. Merely going to reside in the forest or accepting the dress of a renunciate, a sannyasi, will not free one from the desire for bhukti. If bhakti resides in a devotee's heart, then even while living amidst the objects of the senses, he will be able to remain detached from them and will be capable of abandoning the desire for bhukti. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur quotes this verse from by Srila Rupa Goswami and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu regarding yukta vairagya. What does it mean to um, appropriate renunciation in which one uses all things in Krishna's service? It's not that we want to reject all things, but we want to use everything in this world, knowing that it's all meant for Krishna's enjoyment. And so, especially this middle verse here, anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjita nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yukta vairagyam uchate. That's a definition of yukta vairagya. So, when the living entity develops a taste for Krishna bhajan, at that time his excessive attachment for the objects of the senses starts gradually fading. Then, with a spirit of detachment, he accepts the objects of the senses only according to his needs, knowing those objects to be related to Krishna and behaving accordingly. This is called yukta vairagya. The renunciation of those who, desiring liberation from matter, reject the objects of these senses, considering them to be illusory, is called falgu, useless. It is not possible for an embodied soul to completely renounce the objects of the senses, but changing the enjoying tendency towards, it is not possible for an embodied soul to completely renounce the objects of the senses, but changing the enjoying tendency towards them while maintaining an understanding of their relation to Krishna cannot be called sense gratification. Form, taste, smell, touch, and sound are the objects of the senses. We should try to perceive the world in such a way that everything appears related to Krishna, meaning that we should see all living entities as servants and maidservants of Krishna, See gardens and rivers as pleasurable sporting places for Krishna. See that all types of eatables are to be used as an offering for his pleasure. And all types of aromas, perceive the aroma of Krishna Prasad. In the same way, see that all types of flavors are to be relished by Krishna. See that all the elements we touch are related to Krishna. And hear only narrations describing the activities of Krishna or his great devotees. When a devotee develops such an outlook, then he will no longer see the objects of the senses as being separate from Bhagavan himself. The tendency to enjoy the happiness obtained from sense gratification intensifies the desire for bhakti within the heart of a devotee and ultimately deviates him from the path of bhakti. On the other hand, by accepting all the objects of this world as instruments to be employed in Krishna service, the desire for bhakti is completely eradicated from the heart, thus allowing unalloyed devotion to manifest there. So this is where we read up to in our last reading. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's explanation of bhakti, and today we will begin with his explanation of what is mukti. So, as it is imperative to abandon the desire for bhakti, it is equally important to abandon the desire for mukti, for liberation. There are some very deep principles and concepts regarding mukti. 5 types of mukti are mentioned in the scriptures. Salokya sarshti samipya sarupaikatvam apyutam Diyamanam nagrihnanti vina matsevanang jana. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 3:29-13. So Sri Kapila Dev said to Mother Devahuti, he said, "Oh, my dear mother, despite being offered the 5 types of liberation known as Salokya, Sarshti, Samipya, Sarupya, and Ekatva, my pure devotees do not accept them. They only accept my transcendental loving service." Through Salokya Mukti, one attains residence in the abode of Bhagavan. To obtain opulence equal to that of Bhagavan is called Sarshti Mukti. To attain a position in proximity to Bhagavan is called Samipya Mukti. To obtain a 4-armed form like that of Bhagavan Vishnu is called Sarupya Mukti. To attain Sayujya Mukti, merging, is called Ekatva. And this Sayujya Mukti, this merging, is of 2 kinds, Brahma Sayujya and Ishvara Sayujya. The cultivation of Brahma Gyan, impersonal knowledge, leads one to Brahma Sayujya, merging into the Lord's effulgence. Also, by following the method prescribed in the scriptures that deal with self-realization, one attains Brahma Sayujya. By properly observing the Patanjali yoga system, one attains the liberation known as Ishvar Sayujya, merging into the Lord's form. For devotees, both types of Sayujya Mukti are worthy of rejection. Those who desire to attain Sayujya as the perfectional stage may also follow the process of bhakti, but their devotion is temporary and fraudulent. And in regards to these 2 types of mukti, Brahma Sayujya and Ishvar Sayujya, Ishvar Sayujya is even more contemptible. What was the example given? God, where did I read about that? Anyways, should we look it up? I'll just look it up. 1 second. I'm just opening up Folio. Ishvar Sayujya. Okay. It's taking a while to load. Okay. Sorry, guys. 1 sec. I got it here now. Ishvar Sayujya. Hmm. Anyhow, this is not what I wanted to find, but this is interesting. Um, Kishore Mohan is asking my Gurudev in Italy, 2010. He asks, I've heard from many speakers that when the Jivatma goes to Brahma Sayujya, he can come back to this material world of birth and death. Whereas if a soul goes to Ishvar Sayujya, he is annihilated. But I have also heard from Bhagavad Gita that the soul can never be destroyed. So I'm confused on this point. Then my Srila Gurudev says, in a special case, one who goes to Brahma Sayujya may come back to this world, as we see with Gopakumar. He went there, but he did not merge into the Lord's body or effulgence. Rather, he left there at once. For others, though, it is as you are telling. Who has come from Ishvar Sayujya? Can you say? And Kishore Mohan asks, is Ishvar Sayujya real or only imagination? And then my Gurudev says, it is not imagination. And then Madhav Maharaj says, Ishvar Sayujya is more dangerous than Brahma Sayujya. Ah, no, that's not what I was looking for, though. Anyhow, okay. Anyways, let's just continue. Um, okay. So those who desire to attain Sayuja as the perfectional stage may also follow the process of bhakti, but their devotion is temporary and fraudulent. They do not accept bhakti as an eternal occupation and merely consider it to be a means to attain Brahman. Their conception is that after attaining Brahman, bhakti does not exist. Therefore, the bhakti of a sincere devotee deteriorates in the association of such spiritualists. Unalloyed devotion never resides in the hearts of those who consider Sayuja Mukti to be the ultimate perfection. Regarding the other types of liberation, Srila Rupa Goswami explains in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2, 55 to 57, Atra tyajya taya vokta mukti pancha vidapi chet salokyadis tatapyatra bhaktya nati virudhyate. Sukaishvaryottaraseyan prema sevottaretyapi salokyadirtvidatra nadya seva jusham mata kintu premaikamadhurya jusha ekantino haro naivangi kurvate jatu muktim pancha vidam api. Although the aforementioned 5 types of liberation are worthy of rejection by devotees, the 4 types of Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, and Sarshti are not completely averse to bhakti. And you remember what the meaning of all these are, right? Salokya means to be on the same planet as Bhagavan, Samipya means to be near him, Sarupya means to have the same form as him, and Sarshti means to have the same opulences as Bhagavan. So these 4 types of um, these 4 types of mukti are not completely adverse to bhakti. According to the difference in a particular devotee's eligibility to receive them, these 4 types of liberation assume 2 forms. Swasukha Aishwarya Pradhankari, that which bestows transcendental happiness and opulence, and Prem Seva Pradhankari, that which bestows loving transcendental service unto Bhagavan. Those who reach the Vaikuntha planets through these 4 types of liberation obtain the fruit of transcendental happiness and opulence. Servitors of the Lord never accept such liberation under any circumstance, because there's still some desire for one's own happiness in that. And the loving devotees, the Premi Bhaktas, never accept any one of the 5 varieties of mukti. Therefore, within pure unalloyed devotees, the desire for liberation does not exist. Thus, to remain free from the desires for liberation and sense gratification is anyabhilashita shunya, being devoid of any desire other than that to please Sri Krishna. This is one of the marginal characteristics, the tatastha lakshan of bhakti. Okay, so that was the explanation of Anyabilashita Shunyam. And now Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to explain the second line, Jnana Karma Dhyanavritam. To remain uncovered by the tendencies such as those for Gyan, the cultivation of knowledge aimed at impersonal liberation, and karma, fruit of activity, is another marginal characteristic of bhakti. In the phrase Jnana Karmadi, the word adi, meaning and so forth, refers to the practice of mystic yoga, dry renunciation, the process of enumeration, Sankhya Yoga, and the occupational duties corresponding to one's caste or creed. It has already been mentioned that the favorable cultivation of activities to please Sri Krishna is called bhakti. The living entity is transcendental. The living entity is transcendental, Krishna is transcendental, and bhakti vritti, the tendency of pure devotion to Krishna, which the living entity establishes as an eternal relationship with Krishna, is also transcendental. When the living entity is situated in his pure state, only then does the intrinsic attribute, does the Swarup Lakshan of bhakti act. Okay, only when the living entity is situated in his pure state. That's when the intrinsic attribute, the Swarup Lakshan of bhakti, acts. At that time, there's no opportunity for the marginal characteristics of bhakti to act. When the living entity is conditioned and situated in the material world, along with his constitutional identity, his Swarup, two more marginal identities are present, the gross and subtle bodies. Through the medium of these, the living entity endeavors to fulfill his various desires while residing in the material world. Therefore, when introducing someone to the conception of unalloyed devotion, we have to acquaint him with the concept of anyabilashita shunya. That means being devoid of any desire other than the desire to please Sri Krishna. In the transcendental world, this type of identification is not required. After becoming entangled in the ocean of material existence, the living entity becomes absorbed in various types of external activities and is thereby attacked by a disease called forgetfulness of Krishna. Within the jiva, suffering from the severe miseries caused by this disease, arises a desire to be delivered from the ocean of material nescience. At that time, within his mind, he condemns himself, thinking, "Alas, how unfortunate I am! Having fallen into this insurmountable ocean of material existence, I'm being thrown here and there by the violent waves of my wicked desires. At different times, I'm being attacked by the crocodiles of lust, anger, and so forth. I cry helplessly at my miserable condition, but I don't see any hope for my survival. What should I do? Do I not have any well-wisher? Is there any possible way that I can be rescued? Alas, what to do? How will I be delivered? I don't see any solution to my dilemma. Alas, alas, I am most unfortunate." In such a distressed state of helplessness, the living entity becomes exhausted and falls silent. Seeing the jiva in this condition, the most compassionate Sri Krishna then mercifully implants the seed of the creeper of devotion, the Bhakti Lata Bij, within his heart. This seed is known as Shraddha, faith, and it contains within it the undeveloped manifestation of Bhav, the first sprout of divine love for Bhagavan. So the seed is Shraddha, and it contains within it the undeveloped manifestation of Bhav, which is the first sprout of divine love for Bhagavan. Nourished by the water of the cultivation of devotional activities, headed by hearing and chanting. So that's the water, is hearing and chanting and the other activities of bhakti. So with that water, the seedling first sprouts, then grows leaves, and then finally flowers as it assumes the full form of a creeper. When in the end good fortune dawns upon the living entity, the creeper of devotion bears the fruit of prem, divine love. Now I will explain the gradual development of bhakti starting from its seed form of Shraddha. It is to be understood clearly that as soon as the seed of faith is sown in the heart, immediately Bhakti Devi appears there. Bhakti at the stage of Shraddha is very delicate, like a newborn baby girl. From the very time of her appearance in a devotee's heart, she has to be very carefully kept in a healthy condition. Just as a householder protects his very tender baby, just as a householder protects his very tender baby daughter from sun, cold, harmful creatures, hunger, and thirst. Similarly, the infant like Shraddha Devi must be protected from all varieties of inauspiciousness. I've been hearing so often now, um, devotees saying that no, like, we have to put our faith to the test. We have to challenge our faith like that. And I don't think that, I mean, I guess maybe in certain circumstances, but this is not the process that's being shown here. That um, just as a householder protects his very tender baby daughter from sun, cold, harmful creatures, hunger, and thirst. Similarly, the infant like seed Shraddha Devi must be protected from all varieties of inauspiciousness. We have to protect our Shraddha. We don't have to like throw our Shraddha out into into the wild to like fend for itself. And like, we have to carefully protect our Shraddha and nourish it. We should we should, nourish it with the words of our acharyas and understanding from the Vaishnavas. Then, by through that, our Shraddha will become strong and invincible and can withstand anything. But at the beginning, we have to, yeah. Otherwise, the undesirable association of impersonal knowledge, fruit of activity, mystic yoga, attachments to material objects, dry renunciation, and so forth, will not allow her to gradually blossom into Uttam Bhakti and will instead make her grow into a different form. In other words, faith will not eventually develop into Bhakti, but will merely assume the form of anarthas, impediments to pure devotion. The danger of disease remains until the tender Shraddha Devi becomes free from the influences of anarthas and transforms into nishta, resolute determination. This occurs from being nurtured by the affectionate mother of the association of genuine devotees and from taking the medicine of bhajan. Once she has reached the stage of nishta, no anartha whatsoever can easily harm her. If Shraddha Devi is not properly nurtured with the utmost care, she will be polluted by the germs, termites, mosquitoes, and unhealthy environment of Gyan Yoga, the cultivation of knowledge, Vairagya, dry renunciation, Sankhya Yoga, the process of enumeration, and so forth. In the conditioned stage, the pursuit of knowledge, renunciation, and so on are unavoidable for the living entity. But if knowledge is of a particular variety that is unfavorable to devotion, it can ruin bhakti. Hence, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, the word gyan here refers to the pursuit of impersonal Brahman. Gyan is of two types: spiritual knowledge that is directed towards obtaining mukti, and Bhagavad-tattva-gyan, which arises simultaneously along with bhakti within the heart of the living entity. Okay, so there's um, spiritual knowledge directed towards attaining mukti, and Bhagavad-tattva-gyan, which arises simultaneously along with bhakti within the heart of the living entity. The first type of gyan is directly opposed to bhakti, and it is essential to stay far away from it. Some people say that bhakti arises only after the cultivation of such spiritual knowledge, but this statement is completely erroneous. Bhakti actually dries up by the cultivation of such knowledge. On the other hand, knowledge concerning the mutual relationship, the sambandha, between the Supreme Lord, the living entity, and the illusory energy, which arises within the heart of the living entity through the faithful cultivation of devotional activities, is helpful for bhakti. This knowledge is called ahaituka gyan, knowledge that is devoid of ulterior motive. Sutta Goswami says in Srimad Bhagavatam 127, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatya Shubhairagyam Jnanam Cha Yad Ahaitukam. Bhakti yoga that is performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord Vasudeva brings about detachment from all things unrelated to him and gives rise to pure knowledge that is free from any motive for liberation and directed exclusively towards the attainment of him. Now, by carefully reviewing all the previous statements, we can understand that to remain uncovered by jnana, karma, and so forth, which means accepting them as subservient entities, and to engage in the favorable cultivation of activities meant to please Sri Krishna that are devoid of any other desire. This is called Uttama Bhakti. Bhakti is the only means by which the living entity can obtain transcendental bliss. Besides bhakti, all other methods are external. With the assistance of bhakti, sometimes fruit of activity, karma, is identified as arop-siddha bhakti. That means endeavors that are indirectly attributed with the quality of devotion. And sometimes the cultivation of impersonal knowledge, gyan, is identified as sangha-siddha bhakti. Endeavors associated with are favorable to the cultivation of devotion. But they can never be accepted as Swarup Siddha Bhakti, devotion in its constitutionally perfected stage. I wonder if Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to explain Arup Siddha Bhakti and Sangha Siddha Bhakti more in the next chapter. I'll have to take a look. But Swarup Siddha Bhakti, that's Swarup Siddha Bhakti, that means, which is completely um, uh, like constitutionally perfected bhakti, is kaitava shunya. It is free from any deceit and full of unalloyed bliss by nature, meaning that it is devoid of any desire for heavenly enjoyment or the attainment of liberation. But in Arop Siddha Bhakti, the desires for sense gratification, bhukti, and liberation, mukti, remain in a hidden position. And my understanding of Arupsada Bhakti is like we have certain desires and tendencies, and so we um, dovetail those desires and tendencies in devotion to Krishna. Like, you know, I like music a lot, and so I'm going to use my tendency for, it's like, wanting to be a musician. I'm going to do music for Krishna, or, all those things that we like to do. We will um, employ those tendencies and desires of ours in Krishna's service. But it's not completely pure devotion. It's just kind of dovetailing, I think is the word that Srila Prabhupada would use, right? So, so the desires for bhukti and mukti remain in a hidden position in that type of arop siddha bhakti. Therefore, it is called sakaitava bhakti, deceitful devotion. O my dear intimate Vaishnavas, by your constitutional nature, you are attracted to Swarup Siddha Bhakti, and you have no taste for Arup Siddha Bhakti or Sangha Siddha Bhakti. Although these two types of devotion are not actually bhakti by their constitution, some people refer to these two types of activities as bhakti. In fact, they are not bhakti, but bhakti abhas, the semblance of real devotion. If by some good fortune, through the practice of bhakti abhas, one develops faith in the true nature of bhakti, then only can such practice transform into unalloyed devotion. Okay, so we can still engage in aropsiddha bhakti, dovetailing and all these things in Krishna's service like that, but we have to um, pray for some good fortune to arise so that we can have faith in the true nature of bhakti. Then our practices of aropsiddha bhakti and sangasiddha bhakti will lead to uttama bhakti or kevala bhakti. But this does not happen easily, because by the practice of bhakti abhas, there exists every possibility of remaining bereft of unalloyed devotion. Therefore, in all the scriptures, the instruction is to follow Sarup Siddha Bhakti. In this short article, the intrinsic nature of unalloyed devotion has been explained. Having carefully reviewed all the instructions from our predecessor acharyas, in summary form, we are presenting their heartfelt sentiments in the following verse. And we are at the end of this chapter now. I know it's 8 o'clock, but we'll finish in 1 or 2 minutes. Purnachid atmake Krishne jivasyanu chiratmana upadi rahita cheshta bhakti swabhavaki mata. Shri Krishna is the complete, all-pervading consciousness who always possesses all potencies. And the jiva is the infinitesimal conscious entity who is likened to a single particle of light situated within a ray of the unlimited spiritual sun. The natural and unadulterated endeavor of the infinitesimal conscious entity towards the complete consciousness is called bhakti. The living entity's persistence towards anyabhilash, acting to fulfill desires other than the desire to please Sri Krishna. Gyan, the cultivation of knowledge aimed at impersonal liberation. And karma, fruit of activity. So the living entity's persistence towards these three things is called acquiring material designation. We should understand that the natural inherent endeavor of the jiva can only mean the favorable cultivation of activities to please Sri Krishna. That's the end of the chapter. All right, 8:02, not too bad, not too much overtime. So tomorrow we will read an analysis of the semblance of bhakti. And I'll just read the first paragraph. We worship, this is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Mangala Charan verse. He has a special Mangala Charan verse at the beginning of each chapter. He says, we worship Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who is an ocean of transcendental bliss. Even a faint trace of devotion unto him yields the highest result. My dear devotees, in the previous chapter, we discussed the intrinsic nature, the surup, and the extrinsic characteristics, the tatastha lakshan of bhakti. In this chapter, we will discuss bhakti abhas, the semblance of devotion. We have already discussed a little about bhakti abhas while reviewing the tatastha lakshan of bhakti, and indeed, bhakti abhas is actually included within the category of tatastha lakshan of bhakti. But since it is not really suitable for the semblance of devotion to be thoroughly analyzed in a section where both the intrinsic and extrinsic characteristics of bhakti are being described, it has become necessary to write a separate chapter on the topic of bhakti abhas. We hope that this article will serve to further clarify the subject matter of the previous chapter. So we'll read this chapter tomorrow. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. जय श्री सच्चिनंदन गौर हरि की जय, श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जय, श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जू की जय, जय श्री गुरुदेव की जय श्री परम गुरुदेव की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री रूपानु गौरिया गुरु वर्ग की जय, स्वपाशा जी गौर नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय, श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीगण की जय, श्री गिरिराज महाराज की जय, श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय श्री सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय Jai. Bhakti-tattva-viveka ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyashta Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat Pranams Niri Hari Prabhu Bhavatarani Mataji Gokuleshwari Didi Sarveshwari Mataji Ashray Tattva Prabhu Chattamai Mataji. And let's see, on YouTube and Facebook there are 10 devotees there. Raseshwari Mataji, I'm guessing Indira Mataji is also there. Prajumna Prabhu, Mantramurti Mataji, Rukmini Didi, Rohini Nandan Prabhu, Vidyalalasa Didi, Lakshmi Ben Mataji. Yeah. Oh, my brother is there. Krishna Murari Prabhu, Haribo. My brother saying, thank you for doing this daily. This understanding is exactly what I needed to hear. I look forward to tomorrow. Yay! Great. Dandavat Pranams, Hari Mohini Didi, and everybody else watching. If you write a comment, I'll see your name. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Also, pranams to all the devotees watching in the future. Yeah, this topic is very important, and I really love these reading programs because I get to learn all of this along with all of you. I'm not, as I said, as you can see, I'm not very familiar with all these topics, but it's really nice to learn with other devotees rather than just reading by myself. So, um, I'm sure a lot of you know more than me on all these topics, and I'm always grateful for whenever you have anything to share also on any of these topics. So, is there anything anybody wants to mention before we end this stream today?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
Just it's so, like you said just now, it's so nice to be able to go over these distinctions and have more clarity on the detail of bhakti, because bhakti is scientific, and science by its nature it comes down to careful scientific methodology and execution of that methodology in order to get the kind of predictable result that the professors of bhakti talk about,
Yes.
So we have so often, especially when I was, a lot of devotees who don't have this, or don't do it regularly, they get stuck on certain ideas. Like earlier you talked about dovetailing, the idea of dovetailing. So some devotees will just actively promote dovetailing as the thing to do, without considering whether it's the best thing to do, or that you can get stuck in such a thing. So having these distinctions, verses often also get misquoted. Like verses that if you don't study the verse carefully, you can sort of misapprehend what the verse is actually saying. So these having an analysis and being able to do it together, as you said, sort of a safe environment for learning and growing in these kind of deeper understandings and distinctions, and then it can in turn, in a friendly way, share it with others.
Yeah, that's why we're completely dependent on the explanations of our acharyas to understand all these topics. Even like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, if we just go to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu directly, just look at the verses, we'll have a different understanding. But we need Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary, we need Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's explanation, Srila Prabhupada's explanation, or the explanations from Vaishnavas. Because we can never actually, we can never have the arrogance to think, oh yeah, I understand this. We don't understand it. And so forever, we constantly need to be hearing explanations of these topics until we've actually come to that level. You know what I mean? Until we've actually attained perfection. Only then can we we can understand the topics really. But until then, we should always have the humility to understand how much we don't understand, and just be fully dependent on the explanations of our acharyas. And like that's also like I used to always think also with Arup Siddha Bhakti, Arup Siddha Bhakti is good, and we should for now, but actually you can get, like you were saying, you can get stuck in it and just and think that you're doing bhakti when it's actually not bhakti. And if you're not pushing yourself to go towards the pure thing, then we can mislead ourselves, and our whatever Arupsita bhakti could even become unfavorable, you know, like if we don't actually understand. um yeah, of course we can't just jump to Swarup Siddha Bhakti. We have to begin, but we also have to know our aim and objects and where we want to be direct, like where otherwise if we don't have a clear understanding of what bhakti is and where we're trying to move towards, then yeah, we'll just be eternally stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vidyalala Sadidi is saying, oh, and Haribol Bangsiwala Prabhu. Vidyalala Sadidi is saying, when the Lord says, offer whatever you do, whatever you eat, etc., to me, it means whatever we do, we should do it for His pleasure, right? Yeah, yeah, we should do it for His pleasure, definitely. And that, I mean, this is just my understanding that that could either just be um, Nishkam Karma Yoga, right? Nishkam Karma Yoga, which is like 1/3 of the Bhagavad Gita, is about Nishkam Karma Yoga. Just everything that you do it as an offering to the Lord. You know, like you don't desire the fruits of what of your activities, but you do it, all your work in detachment, and just, you know, offering the results to the Lord. But that's not actually bhakti. Bhakti refers specifically to Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam. That's bhakti. And so those Nishkam Karma Yoga, it's favorable for bhakti. It can be favorable for bhakti. And if we are engaged in Smaranam, Kirtanam, like all the you know, actual activities of bhakti, then it can be, you know, then it can become bhakti. All our activities can become bhakti like that. But just offering the results of our activities on its own without those, you know, the 9 processes of bhakti like that is not actually bhakti. It's just nishkam karma yoga. That's my understanding. Yeah. So, all right. So if there's nothing else, then we will end our stream for today. If anybody has anything else, you can mention now. Okay. Cool. So I'll see you all tomorrow to go more deep into this topic. What is a semblance of bhakti? Bhakti Abhas. And I think it's going to go into Arup Siddha Bhakti, Sangha Siddha Bhakti, Karma Mishra Bhakti, Gyan Mishra Bhakti, and so on. So, all right. Haribo. Hare Krishna.